I will step out and make a really controversial prediction. I think the agentic path for next year is not being done right. And I think in 2 years, we'll have thrown away that style of interaction, that style of work, and we'll be on to a different approach.
Hi everyone, Tian here, and welcome to the podcast that keeps you on the cutting edge of AI and tech. In this next mini episode, I get the luxury of speaking to one of the OGs in AI, Adam Cheyer, and here's what he has to say. Hi Adam, it's so lovely to see you again.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Adam, I would love to introduce you to our viewers. Would you please give us a little bit of your background in the AI space, considering the fact that you're a serial entrepreneur that I consider one of the OGs in the AI world?
Thank you. So I'm Adam Cheyer. I've been co-founder of or founding member of 5 companies. So I was the technical founder for Siri, which sold to Apple. We did a Siri 2.0 company called Viv Labs, sold to Samsung, got onto about 500 million devices. I was the founding member and first developer of change.org, which is the world's largest petition platform, more than 500 million members. I was co-founder of Sentient, the first large-scale machine learning platform back in 2008, 2009. We had more than 1 million CPUs and GPUs running neural nets and genetic algorithms. And most recently, I was co-founder and CEO of GamePlanner.AI, which sold 1 year ago to Airbnb. So currently, I'm VP of AI experience at Airbnb.
Well, honestly, Adam, every time I hear your introduction, it changes because now you've added another exit since the last time we spoke. And as a futurist in the space, as somebody that has been well and truly ahead of the cool curve of AI, I'd love to talk about 2024. What predictions did you have in 2024 that either came true, or were there any surprises around AI in 2024, or did everything kind of trend to the way you thought it would plan out?
There were definitely some surprises. I think it was a really fun and interesting year for AI.
Yeah.
As a Siri co-founder, I'll first give props to all the work on the speech models, and the text-to-speech voices now are so empathetic and charismatic and really beyond my expectations. I'm going to give, for me, AI product of the year or feature of the year is Google Notebook LM. That
Yeah.
was a huge surprise. Loaded up one of my AI papers from 30 years ago, talking about agents and speech and multimodal and AI. And the dialogue that it generated was so interesting, containing not only insights in the paper, but putting it in context of the time and looking forward. I was blown away. So that was a really, really cool moment. I think
Mm-hmm.
video generation is getting to the point where you can see what's coming with the latest work from OpenAI Sora and Google Veo 2. It's pretty amazing. It's not quite useful yet, but man, you go take that a few years forward, and boy, video and movies are going to change. It was cool to see GPT-4 level intelligence running, on a local device and nearly on a phone. So a year ago, that was the cutting edge of the greatest models of intelligence.
Yeah.
Today, it's very available. And of course, the biggest step, which is really interesting, is the reasoning models
Yeah.
that as they will generate thinking tokens, namely moments when it says, I should think about this a little bit more. And then takes time to reflect. And I think that's a very interesting approach for certain applications. I'm most excited about using it as a research collaborator, having it validate, brainstorm, you know, scientific topics. You can run this, scientific papers through it and ask it, where are the mistakes? You can ask it what's going on, what should I try differently? And that's a pretty interesting development.
Yeah, I am most excited about. I love ancient cities and this notion of like lost cities. And so for me, recently, I've been following a lot of research on how AI is uncovering lost cities and just
Wow.
really unusual use cases that I think if we could crack the nut on some of our past, it would help us understand like us as humans and where we came from, what our ancestors really eat and do, and what did life look like back then. So that's one of the like unusual use cases I think that people don't really think about, that I'm most excited about, is cracking the code that we haven't had a chance to analyze ourselves. So let's talk about 2025. Adam, what are your 2025 predictions in the AI space?
So my view is one of the big topics for 2025 will clearly be agentic,
Hmm.
namely agents who not only can think and reason, but can start to do things on your behalf.
Hmm.
So that's not a crazy prediction, but I will step out and make a really controversial prediction. Uh,
Okay.
I think I think the agentic path for next year is not being done right. And
Mm.
I think in 2 years, we'll have thrown away that style of interaction, that style of work, and we'll be on to a different approach. So that's my controversial that opinion that agentic is going to be the thing of the year for next year. And I think it's heading in the wrong direction, and I think we'll retract it. Much like when GPT plugins came out, there was all this excitement. When's the last time we talked about a GPT plugin? Not really. So
Hmm.
you have to make attempts and tries, but I don't think this is going in the right direction. The one other thing that I'll mention is that um, I think infinite memory. So obviously the context windows have been growing and growing, and I think we're going to get to places where it's in effect infinite. And what does that mean for AI? Today, there's three phases. There's pre-training,
Yeah.
there's fine-tuning,
Hmm.
and then there's at inference time, which is usually the context window. Once we have infinite context window, which I think may be possible, I think fine-tuning is no longer needed as much because you can just load in all that training and knowledge into the actual query. And in that way, it can be very personalized. So I think that will be a huge leap forward.
I hope so. I'm going back to the agentic component. I've been speaking about agentic for quite some time. Fortunate enough that we work with some of the companies that are pioneering agentic, just on the training data side. And what's quite interesting when you do the CIO circuit, you walk into these rooms and you host kind of conversations around agentic. Everybody thinks about it in a completely different way. And everybody seems to want to invest, and it's like ships in the night kind of moving in multiple different directions. So lastly, if we were to think about some of the risks coming into 2025, what are some of the cautions around AI? Have you any thoughts on that?
Um, sure. So things that I'm worried about right now, one is, the consumption and the energy uh,
Hmm.
put forth by these models. It's just going up and up and up. They're not cheap to build, and
Hmm.
they're not cheap to run. And so I'm hoping and for a swing back to cheaper models. So GPT-4 is incredible.
Yeah.
We can now run it on smaller devices. We don't. I know we want to keep pushing towards AGI. I don't believe in AGI. I think smaller, more practical, tuned models can give us a lot, and we need to find the right compromise of you know the energy consumption. A
Yeah.
second area I'm worried about, especially with different political climates, is around regulation.
Mhm.
I do think privacy and transparency is um, is an issue in AI, and we
Mhm.
need some rules and help to put in place guardrails for how AI is used and how people are protected in the use of AI, as well as the content providers.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things in the next couple years that will start to be set in stone, and I'm worried. We need to find again the right balance of pushing forward, but while doing so in an ethical way. And the last thing I'll mention is, as AI and personalization and algorithms gets smarter, these
Mhm.
are the tools of, they're the weapons of mass persuasion.
Yeah.
And already we're caught up in social networks and that divide us more than bring us together,
Yeah.
that label us, that steer what we see, and let us live in bubbles. So that's where we are today. Can you
Yeah.
imagine, as AI gets better, as the ability to fabricate video and images and text becomes ever easier? I'm worried about that. And so what can we do?
Mm.
One thing I'm doing, I'm going to be getting off of social media and anything with an algorithm that, is trying to send information my way. I'm going to build my own portfolio of content authors and writers and great minds that I know and trust and
Mhm.
validate across the spectrum of opinions and views. I want to curate a broad but trustworthy human editorial board for myself and get my media that way, so that I can start to trust. Because unless some of the regulations happen,
Yeah.
I'm just worried things get too far out of control. And I think we need to fight back and focus on, where is the opinion coming? Where are the facts from? Am I getting a broad spectrum of perspective rather than a narrow perspective that someone wants? So those are some of the things I'm thinking about going forward.
Regulation, safety, security has been top of mind. And it was interesting. I've been spending a fair bit of time in DC with different bodies down there, different souls that I can't sort of mention who they are, what they do, but it's not just on the top of the mind politically for policymakers, but just on how do you even start to define, how do you even understand, like, for instance, what is it to be factful? What is a fact? How do you define what a fact is? And so I think it's going to be a really interesting couple of years. I definitely think the control on deepfakes, I'm not sure if you know, but Australia actually banned social media for any child under the age of 16, which I think is great.
I saw that recently. Yeah.
Um, that said, when I was speaking to kids, my sister's son was crying because so this is on Friday, school ended, everyone's gone on holiday break. And one of the older kids that was his mentor and his school buddy is now going on to a high school. And he was bawling his eyes out because he has this feeling that he won't be able to get in contact with him. And there is no safe place for a 6-year-old to get in contact with his buddy. And so it was really interesting to watch a child cry and say goodbye. Whereas today, when somebody leaves our lives because of social media, we feel like we're still connected. And so I thought that was just like a really interesting take on, sure, we can ban social media, but there does need to be a different way to connect in a safe environment so you can stay in touch with people that do matter to you. I don't know what the answer to that is, but
Well, we used to have social networks
yeah.
that turned into social media. And I do think there's a division that could
Mhm.
be created, going back to really about communicating, rather than turning all of our actual friends into followers, right? It's a very different mindset. One is communication, and one is media. So yeah, maybe that will be a trend that comes back in the coming year. That would be great to see.
Would love to see that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. We're wrapping up the year and wanted to do a quick segment on some of the highlights from 2024 and recapping 2025. I actually would love to have you on the show next year, and hopefully we can do a deeper dive into either agentic or maybe regulation or any of the topics that are on your mind, Adam. I really appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you. Bye.